And in the Gaza Strip, thousands of Gaza residents are also gathering along the border with Israel in protest. A general strike dominated all the Gaza Strip, including schools, universities, banks, and stores, and main streets seemed empty of traffic and pedestrians. Monday is marked by the Israelis as the 70th anniversary of their declaration of independence, also one day before the Palestinians' Nakba Day, or Day of Catastrophe. The Monday protests were organized by the National Commission of the Great Marches of Return in Eastern Gaza Strip, which have been going on since March the 30th. Monday's rallies were also held to protest against the U.S. move to relocate its embassy to Jerusalem. Israel's military said its forces fired tear gas to disperse Palestinian protesters near the fence between the Gaza Strip and Israel on Monday. Palestinian media reports said casualties were reported. Earlier in the morning, military jets dropped leaflets warning against approaching the fence. Over the past several days, the Israeli military deployed 11 battalions along the fence. Since March the 30th, when the marches of return started, the Israeli army has killed about 50 Palestinians and wounded more than 8,000, according to the Gaza Health Ministry official figures. The National Commission of the protests in Gaza called for the largest ever mass rallies. The protest coincides with the 70th anniversary of Israel's declaration of independence, a day before the Palestinians' Nakba Day, or Day of Catastrophe. The rally is also held to protest over the U.S. relocation of its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, following U.S. President Donald Trump's recognition of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel last December. The status of the city is not settled as the Palestinians want to make East Jerusalem the capital of their future state, while Israel declared Jerusalem as its capital, a claim not recognized by the international community. Jerusalem is one of the ultimate questions of the Palestinian-Israeli peace process, which has been stalled since April 2014, following 9 months of U.S.-sponsored talks without progress. In December last year, U.S. President Donald Trump announced it's recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital and ordered to move its embassy from Tel Aviv to the city. As a result, Palestinians disqualified the United States from being the sole sponsor of the peace negotiations and called for a multilateral peace mechanism. Earlier this month, a Palestinian Liberation Organization senior official warned that the Palestinians will seek to reactivate the Jerusalem municipality in response to the relocation of the U.S. embassy to the disputed Holy City. The Jerusalem municipality is the first municipal body the Palestinians elected in 1963, but Israel dissolved it after annexing the city in 1967.
وسائل القمع كيف يقوم بضرب المدنيين بها بصوره عنيفه جدا، ربما ايضا اشير هنا الى ان التحضيرات الامنيه والتي استعدت بشكل كبير جدا على مدار الاسبوع الماضي وكيف انها اعدت خطه واضحه لقمع اي مسيرات قد تخرج ان كان في قطاع غزه او كانت في الضفه الغربيه او في مدينه القدس عشيه نقل السفاره وفي ذكرى نكبه الشعب الفلسطيني. تم اعداد خطط كبيره جدا، 11 لواء تم دفعها في منطقه قطاع غزه، بالاضافه الى ذلك بلواءين، هنا 3 ألوية تم نشرها في القطاع على عناصر انتشرت بشكل كبير.
The footage you're watching now is from Jerusalem. The United States is relocating its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in a controversial move condemned by the Palestinians.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to begin our ceremony. Please remember to silence your phones now.
Now the footage you're watching now is from Jerusalem. In a short while, the United States' new embassy in Jerusalem is going to be inaugurated. The United States is relocating its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in a controversial move condemned by the Palestinians. The embassy relocation comes despite a global outcry and Palestinian anger over the unilateral decision by U.S. President Donald Trump.
Freeze it! Arms!
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
The footage you're watching now is from Jerusalem. The United States is relocating its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in a controversial move condemned by the Palestinians. Now you're watching the inauguration ceremony of the new U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem. U.S. Ambassador David Friedman is presiding over the inauguration ceremony.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me now in welcoming Ambassador David Friedman, and please be seated.
U.S. Deputy Secretary of State John Sullivan is leading the U.S. delegation to the opening ceremony, along with Secretary of Treasury Stephen Mnuchin, President Donald Trump's daughter Ivanka, and his senior advisor and son-in-law Jared Kushner.
And dedication of the United States Embassy in Jerusalem, Israel.
If you're just joining us, we're live from Jerusalem, and the footage you're watching now is from Jerusalem. Now you're watching the inauguration ceremony of the new U.S. Embassy in the city. The United States is relocating its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem.
On this exact day,
And President Donald Trump
70 years
said
ago,
the relocation of the
at
embassy
almost this
recognizes
exact
the
time,
reality that
David
Jerusalem is the
Ben-Gurion
capital of
declared
Israel and the
Israel's
seat of its
independence.
government.
Just 11 minutes later,
John Sullivan had said
President
that Trump's
Harry
decision
Truman
to relocate
caused
the
the
embassy
United
was
States
essential to
to be the
creating a
very first
roadmap
nation
for peace
to
in the region.
recognize the reborn state of Israel. He later regretted that he waited so long.
Israeli Foreign Ministry said that 86 foreign
70 years
ambassadors
since
to
that
Israel were
memorable
invited
event, almost
to the
to the
opening
minute,
ceremony.
the
About
United
40 of them
States
accepted
finally
the
takes
invitation.
The next step, a step
Israeli
awaited,
Prime Minister Benjamin
voted
Netanyahu
upon,
had said the
litigated,
relocation would be a
and prayed
truly
for
historic
all
thing.
these years. Today, we opened the United States Embassy
And on this
in
day,
Jerusalem,
thousands of
Israel.
police officers were deployed throughout the Jerusalem districts for fear of Palestinian protests
Again,
and riots.
The United States leads the way
Israel
as the
seized
first
East
nation to do
Jerusalem
so.
together with the rest of
So
the West
many
Bank
have
and
worked
Gaza
so
Strip
hard
in the
and for so
1967
long
Middle
for
East
this day to
War.
come, and they all deserve our thanks.
Israel
But
claimed
make no
East
mistake,
Jerusalem as part of its
today's historic
indivisible
event
capital in
is
a move
attributed
which was
to the
not
vision,
recognized internationally.
courage, and the moral clarity of one person to whom we owe
In
an
December
enormous
last
and
year,
eternal debt of
Trump
gratitude,
recognized
President
Jerusalem as the
Donald
capital of
J.
Israel
Trump.
in a move that triggered new violence in the region. The Palestinians want East Jerusalem as the capital of their future state. Following Trump's move, they said the United States cannot be considered as a fair peace broker in the Middle East. During the Arab League summit last month, a final statement of the summit stressed the importance of ongoing efforts to establish a Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital on the borders of 1967. The statement described the Palestinian cause as a central issue of the Arab world. It also voiced rejection of the Arab countries to Israel's Judaization of Jerusalem and Trump's recognition of the Holy City as Israel's capital last December.
The mayor of Jerusalem, Nir Barkat, and his wife Beverly. The Speaker of the Knesset, Yuli Edelstein, and his wife Irina. The Leader of the Opposition, Isaac Herzog, and his wife Michal. The Deputy Chief Justice of the Israel Supreme Court, Hanan Meltzer. The head of the Israel Defense Forces, General Gadi Eisenkot. The Ashkenazi Chief Rabbi of Israel, Rav David Lau. The Sephardi Chief Rabbi of Israel, Rav Yitzchak Yosef. And the former Chief Rabbi of Israel, Rav Yisrael Meir Lau. And all the ministers, cabinet members, members of the Knesset, members of the IDF, mayors, and religious leaders. From the executive branch of the United States government, it is my pleasure to welcome the leader of the President's delegation, the Deputy Secretary of State, John J. Sullivan. And the 77th Secretary of the Treasury, Stephen Mnuchin. President Trump's senior advisor, Jared Kushner. President Trump's daughter and senior advisor, Ivanka Trump. President Trump's special representative for international negotiations, Jason Greenblatt. The United States Ambassador to Italy, Lou Eisenberg. Assistant Secretary of State, Nicole Nason, and Acting Assistant Secretary of State, David Satterfield. From the legislative branch, we have 4 senators whose support for Israel is legendary. Senator Lindsey Graham. Senator Ted Cruz. Senator Dean Heller, and Senator Mike Lee. Thank you for coming. And from our House of Representatives, a delegation led by Congressman Joe Wilson, Congressman Tom Rice, Congressman Steve Knight, Congressman Dennis Ross, Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, Congressman Jody Heiss, Congressman Scott Taylor, Congressman Lee Zeldin, Congressman George Holding, and Congressman Ron DeSantis. Just last year, Congressman DeSantis stood at a podium here in Jerusalem and made a passionate and compelling case that this day would come, and so it has. I'd also like to welcome the governor of my home state of Florida, who also has been a strong advocate for Jerusalem, Governor Rick Scott. In 1995, the Jerusalem Embassy Act became law, voted in favor overwhelmingly by both houses of Congress, and led, I should add, by a former senator who is here today, Senator Joseph Lieberman.
If you're just joining us, we're live from Jerusalem. Now you're watching the inauguration ceremony of the new U.S. Embassy in the city. The U.S. is relocating its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem in a controversial move condemned by the Palestinians. And elsewhere in Jerusalem, Palestinians are protesting against the U.S. embassy move.
We keep our promise to the American people, and we extend to Israel the same right we extend to
Monday is marked by the Israelis as the 70th anniversary of their Declaration of Independence, also one day before the Palestinians' Nakba Day, or Day of Catastrophe. Protests have been organized by the National Commission of the Great Marches of Return in eastern Gaza Strip, which have been going on since March the 30th. And Monday's rallies were also held to protest against the U.S. move to relocate its embassy to Jerusalem.
تعال سعيد اسمع وين جهاد؟ بدي جهاد اثنين ذكرتك الشنطة عشان جهاد جابوا تعوني المساجين هذه وين فيها الزوم؟ لا عاملة زوم بزيادة يا باي وين جهاد؟ تعال سعيد سعيد بدنا نطلع سعيد بدنا نطلع بسرعة بسرعة.
Now you're watching live footage from Jerusalem, where Palestinians are protesting against the U.S. Embassy move. The United States is relocating its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And rallies have been held in various cities in the Gaza Strip.
مشكلة ضاربة زوم فيها.
كمان واحد أمير تعال.
اسمع وين جهاد؟ بدي حدا من الشباب.
وين تلاقيه هي؟
طلع عاملة زوم لحالها. اطلعي. اطلع شو الزوم.
Now you're watching live footage from Jerusalem, where rallies are being held to protest over the U.S. relocation of its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, following U.S. President Donald Trump's recognition of the city as the capital of Israel last December. Now it's time to wrap up today's report. Thank you for watching. See you next time.
خليني بالضبط خليني اشوف على السريع افحصها. سعيد ثواني.